sort of dreading Monday because I got to fly back to New York, and it's going to be below 20 degrees that day, and I get in the evening, so it'll be even colder. However, bright spot on the horizon, there is pinball to be played in New York in my non-working hours, and I might get to finally play WrestleMania. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some other stuff, answer some emails, all sorts of good things happening here on episode 137 of Coast to Coast Pinball. Let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast. It's my commentary about pinball, and I'm a man, of course. How are you doing? It's a beautiful winter day here in San Diego. It's in the high 60s. It's Saturday, February 21st. We're recording in the early evening. I rarely record this early in the day, but I have plans tonight. I really wanted to get a show out. I got a lot of pinball on my mind. Things are coming. It's like I've said this before on the show because I remember saying it, but we're in one of those little calm before the storms. Things are starting to pick up, and it's like a downhill sprint coming up soon as far as games coming out, events, things going on, travel for pinball, talking about pinball. Hopefully guests on Coast to Coast Pinball. I know that I have at least 4 confirmations from 4 really fun, exciting, relevant people in our fun community and hobby that have agreed to come onto the show. I've just got to hammer down some times to get them on, and I can't wait to do that. This is hot off the heels of episode 136. We're coming to you not live here on 137. 136 was the Josh Sharp kickoff show in a lot of ways. Josh is going to be coming on once a month-ish, close as I can get, to the show. And I don't know if they'll all be full episodes or partial episodes or whatever whenever we run out of stuff to talk about. But we're going to be doing a focus with Josh Sharp once a month, just about competitive pinball. And that's not going to just be IFPA talk. We won't just dive into IFPA all the time. We want to talk about the tournaments as they happen and who's, leading the standings and maybe things that Josh is seeing happening and success with local tournaments and his take on different games in tournaments. And I already got a ton of feedback, like more than I expected on Josh coming in. 95% of it really positive. To those couple of people who were like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're changing your show." Don't fear. I think some people misunderstood. Josh is not coming on to the show to turn Coast to Coast Pinball into competitive pinball talk only. It's once a month. It's important. I think it's really important. And I think if you've heard the episodes I've done with Josh, he has great stories, great things to talk about. He's a good dude, and I think it's a fantastic way to keep me motivated every month to talk about tournaments and that. And to those that emailed about the show, thank you. Lots of good feedback. Josh is really fun. A lot of people like hearing from the top players in the country, in the world. So that's a lot of good stuff going on. He's the perfect guy to do that because he's a top player and he's the president of the IFPA, so it works out well. I actually have a couple other top players sort of lined up loosely to come on the show, so we're gonna be talking about competitive pinball. I think that's important. Today, however, I was thinking the last couple days, I watched a lot of video of WrestleMania, and specifically I watched the final episode of this season, as they called it, of Papa TV Live the other night. And the third game of the 3 they played that night was WrestleMania. And I got to see some really good high-quality gameplay. I got to see them go through sort of what rules are in the game so far and see where all the shots go. I defended this theme big time. I came on the show and said, all the haters are wrong, this theme is great. I'm into it. I'm okay with pro wrestling as a theme for pinball. I've listened to other podcasts. I listened to the John Trudeau interview on the Broken Token. I've listened to the Pinheads Pinball podcast go over WrestleMania. I know that Rod is super excited about the game and he's ordering an LE. I think that I'm all in on the theme. I'm like really all in on the theme. Why does that game not look that exciting to me when I watch it being played? I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it other than it doesn't look that exciting. I'm worried about this game. I'm worried that we're going to get this game that's going to have these 2 ramp shots that you hit over and over, and just go up to that upper playfield and drop down into the ring. I'm a little concerned with this one. And I started going back and like thinking about all the John Trudeau designed games. Maybe I'm just not a John Trudeau guy, which is kind of sad to me because I like him so much. He seems like such a really good dude, like a really good guy whose heart is really in pinball. I'm not a huge fan of Mustang. I'm not a huge fan of. I don't know. I should just stop because I'm going to get all critical here, and it's without warrant. Let's talk about WrestleMania. I'm worried about that ring. I'm worried about the gameplay being really slowed down by that ball falling in that ring constantly over and over and over again, and the gameplay. I hate to use the term no flow because that's such a simple way of putting it, but I'm really worried about it. I think the rule set is going to be so vital on this, and I have not been incredibly impressed by the gameplay videos that I've seen so far. The inner loop shots, which were kind of what a lot of people thought were going to be, major, fun shots and quick shots, they're cool. They're okay. I don't really love how the ball falls into that really tight little hole and then drops in the pop bumpers. That's not my favorite. I don't really like the left or right wireform returns. It just doesn't. I don't know. And I hate to be this guy. But I started really thinking, am I not a John Trudeau guy? And I go back and forth whether or not I want to talk about this on the show because I don't know if it'll ever get back to John Trudeau, and I feel bad. But I have to say, I've owned Judge Dredd. Never fell in love with that game. That was another game where it looked awesome. Everything about it seemed like I was going to love this game, and I personally never fell in love with the game. I think you've all heard me talk about Creature from the Black Lagoon and how I've had this sort of like late, like kind of embrace for that one. Like I've now finally get Creature from the Black Lagoon. I've always liked the theme. I've always liked the artwork. I've always liked the idea. Never really loved the gameplay. I can't see what's going on in a lot of that game. It seems like it's sort of a real simple game. There's only so many things to do. It's okay. Not one of my favorites. Not a fan of the Flintstones. I don't like the Flintstones. I don't like the way the game shoots. I don't like the bowling pins. There's a lot about the game I don't like. Congo. There's a game I actually kind of defend. I think Congo is now getting its just deserves. That game is kind of one of the hot 90s titles right now. I like Congo. So I guess there's some in there that I really like. Black Rose, there's another game. Don't really like the way that one plays. Not a huge fan. I've got a machine, brought a pinbot sitting right next to me. I don't play it very often. I think we all know that one's sort of simple on the shots. My favorite John Trudeau games, when I look back, are really the stuff back in the Premiere days. I'm talking like games like, Hollywood Heat. Terrible theme. Terrible backglass. Kind of a cool game. TX Sector. TX Sector is a cool game. Lots going on. It's sort of that late 80s sort of cram as much in as we can type of feel to it that I really like. Alien Star. Alien Star was a game that I got to see at Papa in the finals last year in the A Division, and I hadn't really seen that game a whole lot, and I like it. I like the way that game shoots. It's very classic pinball. But I really like some of those older games of John Trudeau. I don't know that I'm super sold on his modern DMD era games. I think it's, to me, more misses than hits. I don't know. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I think I get to play WrestleMania this week. I'm going to go out of my way to try and play WrestleMania this week, and I hope it surprises me because as of now, just based on gameplay, I'm not getting a vibe of real excitement. When I saw the Walking Dead gameplay, I wanted to play that game. I really did. And I kind of like Walking Dead. Not the greatest game in the world, not my favorite late model Stern game, but I like the game. I think it's an interesting game. It feels very different. And that's, I guess, my hope for WrestleMania, is that when I do get my hands on WrestleMania, it's just going to feel different. And I'm going to enjoy that. Boy, that wrestling ring thing, I hope that's not as gimmicky as it's starting to worry me that it might be. I don't know. We'll see. I don't love the artwork on that game. It's hard to look at in a lot of ways. It's a lot of color, a lot of different colors jumping out at me. The theme doesn't bother me. Don't love the artwork. the more I've looked at it. So I had a few emails asking about why I hadn't been talking about WrestleMania, and I guess because I'm not feeling really zesty about it. You know, I'm not feeling like super hyped about the new game, and that kind of bums me out in a way. So, but who am I to say when I haven't even played the thing yet, right? So, early days on WrestleMania, so for those who asked, as soon as I play it, I will report back and let you know, and hopefully good things happen out of that.
Forum static.
All right, there's a couple stories in forum static that I think are pretty important right now, and both of them concern Dutch pinball. I'm going to start with the big one first. Refunds on the Big Lebowski are being processed. So, when we last left off with Dutch pinball and the Big Lebowski situation, people wanted their money back. Some people wanted their money back. Some people were scared after the fallout with Phil, and they wanted a refund of their money. And the communication coming from Dutch pinball was not stellar. People were sort of basically told, we're working on it. We're getting new people on board in the USA. Can't give you a refund yet. And I guess I knew all the details, but knowing both sides of it, I certainly wasn't going to get on my little podcast here and spout it all off. That wasn't appropriate. But I felt pretty confident that cooler heads would prevail because in the end, knowing the Phil side and the Barry side, there wasn't a good and a bad there, in my opinion. And there still isn't. I think both sides are very good. I think that money and business can certainly, throw things into disarray quickly and hurt feelings and egos. And then when you start stacking on top of that other issues that were going on in this very tough situation, it got to a bad place, and it was unfortunate. But I didn't ever get the feeling, really, that people were going to get somehow totally taken for thousands of dollars in this situation. I don't know that for sure 100% the Big Lebowski is going to, be manufactured and shipped and everything will be all happy in 2015. They could hit snags. There could be money issues. There could be stuff like that. I don't know that for sure. But I felt like, knowing what I heard from both sides and trying my best to, figure out what was really exactly accurate and not being, shaded one way for me, I felt like everything was pretty good. And I think I said that on the show, is I think the game's going to get made, and I thought people's money was safe. But I really was starting to get a little bit apprehensive and like, why aren't they getting these PayPal refunds processed? And last week I texted Dutch Pinball and said, hey guys, what's going on? Any updates on the refunds? What's happening? And I got a really good response, and it basically said, yes, we are very close to being able to send refunds. I'll let you know so you can when I know for sure, I'll let you know so you can talk about it on the next show. And it happened a day after the last show, so I didn't get a chance to talk about it. So refunds started hitting. I think that'll go a long way towards righting some of the communication breakdown that's happened with Dutch Pinball. I think people can feel a little more confident now if they are invested in that process, and that's a good thing. I also have heard from Phil, and I am glad Phil is finding a little bit of, I don't want to say peace, or just a little bit of a settling thing going on with Dutch Pinball. It sounds like things have gotten better, and I won't speak for anybody, but it seems like things have gotten better. I just wish Phil the best of luck in health. I think Phil is fighting a really tough fight, and I wish him the best. I can only hope that he is with his family as much as possible and everything's good there. Nobody should have to go through what he's going through, so that sucks. And so I wish him the best. I hope all is well. And that's a tough situation. As far as the Big Lebowski goes, I stand behind my hunch is that this game's going to get built and it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. The art's all approved. I know that there's some misconceptions out there in the world. I think some people have thought that there was going to be a Dutch pinball factory built. There isn't. They're hiring contract manufacturers to build the Big Lebowski. They're going to someone who's competent at building very complex electromechanical machines of other sorts and saying, hey, we will pay you to build this pinball machine. That's how it's happening. They have the people at Dutch Pinball have experience in this sort of work. It's why a lot of the people who met them early on had a lot of early confidence in this project, because some of the members of the team have basically done this in other industries. So just clearing that misconception up. I think there's another misconception, and this is one that I've seen thrown around a little bit. I didn't want to get into this one until I saw the refunds for those wanting their money back start flowing. Now that they're flowing, I will throw this out there because it's a tricky one for me, because I don't want to be the guy that talks anybody into spending money on a pre-order game that doesn't exist yet. I don't want to do that. I had no problem telling people to go buy America's Most Haunted if they wanted to, because those games were being built, being manufactured. We were seeing pictures every day of people working on games. That's in process. I don't really want to talk you into a game that's a pre-order. I'm very positive on The Big Lebowski, but when the refund thing was sort of up in the air, I wanted to be careful here. And I feel confident now in saying that if you're sitting there thinking that this idea that this is an unlimited run, I see that term thrown around on Pinside in some of the forum posts, and I think I may have even said it, is there's no limit per se to the run. That's not really accurate. There is certainly a limit to every run. And when you're dealing with something like contract manufacturing, if you just put the dots together, I'm person A, I'm asking person B to build me something. That can't go on forever. You can't just build me a couple more every time I need them. Like, oh, hey, could you build me a couple more pinball machines next week? It's probably not going to work like that. A lot of parts, a lot of pieces. I think we know how hard it is to build a pinball machine. A lot of that stuff goes in. So parts will need to be ordered, timelines will need to be set, factory space will need to be set, prepped, and ready. I think what the plan is for Dutch Pinball to build all the pre-order games and some inventory. There is a number on that inventory. They're not going to build 10,000 games. They're going to build some number of games, and I have no idea what that number is. But let's say they've sold, and I don't know these numbers, but I'm just pulling total blank numbers out of the air. Let's say they've sold 4 games. Okay? That's how ridiculous my numbers will be. 4 games. They're not going to build 4,000 games if they built 4. Or if they sold 400, they're not going to build 20,000 games. If they sold 4 games, I'm going to guess they're going to build 8 games. Something like that. Maybe 10 games. So if they sold 400 games, maybe they're going to build 1,000 games. So there is going to be a limit. And I would warn people who are in the camp of, it's an unlimited run, I'll just buy one once they start shipping, or I'll just buy one a year and a half from now, maybe is what you're thinking in your head. I think when this game does start shipping and people see the whole package and the code, there's going to be a run on these games. And I know it's expensive. And people are saying that this game is at that price point, which is just at the very top level price point of somebody to spend on a game. I get that. It's expensive. It's also pretty awesome. Let's not lose sight of The Big Lebowski as just a machine. Forget Phil. Forget Barry. Forget Yop. Forget you guys. No offense to any of you guys. Forget all of them. Forget parties in hotels. Forget announcements and flyers and rugs and girls in little suits or whatever. Forget all of that. When I walked up to that game, the actual game, and hit the start button, it was awesome. The game was awesome. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're really into this game, you might want to start a dialogue with Dutch Pinball about how to reserve your game. That's what I'm saying. Will there be extra built? Yeah, there's going to be extra built. Could there be a run on them? Yeah, I think there could be a run on them. Remember, I think this game's going to play really well. And by play really well, I mean like go over really well in Europe, because it's a Dutch company building this game. So I guess what I'm saying is there will be no Dutch factory. It's contract manufacturing, and it's not an unlimited run. There's some number, and I don't know what that number is. I don't even know if they know what that number is right now. But, they've got to pay for these to be built. So I wouldn't sit there expecting there to be new in-box Big Lebowskis for 4 years from now. There will come a time when this is going to end. And once they're done, I think they'll probably be done because the license may run out. The timeline they have on the license could end. The contract manufacturer probably will be moving on. They are probably going to be moving on to something else. So I've seen that a few times and kind of cringed and thought, uh-oh, this is how an $8,000 game becomes a $12,000 game. So if you want the game, I would buy the game. So the other piece of forum static concerning Dutch Pinball is pages and pages into the Bride of Pinbot 2.0 owners thread. So folks have gotten their Bride of Pinbot 2.0 kits, they've installed them, and they're playing them. Pretty great reviews. I think some bugs were found, some bugs were fixed. Sounds like this thing is awesome. The thing I want to point out about this, which this could be a moment, this could be a game-changing moment. This game connects up to your Wi-Fi, and you can play with live scoring going on to the internet, to the interwebs. We will all be connected someday. Well, it's happening right now. So if you go to DutchPinball.com/BOP2/live, you can see games that are hooked up to the system. And it looks like there's about 15 of them or so. And there's scores posted. And you can see who's playing now. Buttonhead's machine is active as I record this right now. You can see what they're set on, 3 balls and extra balls on 1 or not. You can see their highest score. You can see their initials, I believe, and where they rank. It's awesome. It's early days for this, and I think a lot of us, when we think about, hooking machines up to the internet and having that sort of thing going on, you always think, well, how do we know somebody's not cheating? Well, we don't. You could very clearly be cheating. If you are cheating, you're super lame. You're super lame. But you could be cheating, and you can't stop that, I guess, right now. I think someday in the future we will have pinball machines that will clearly be able to detect whether or not the glass is on the game, et cetera, probably the angle the game's set at, all that good stuff. But right now on this particular game, you could be cheating. And there's already been some arguments on Pinside is, I don't know if you're cheating, blah, blah, whatever. What I'm thinking, though, is how cool this is. How cool this is as far as, like, the community. And, we got people living in Portland, Oregon. We got people living in Holland. We got people living in New York with this game all connected. And you can see your scores versus the community. I just think it's awesome. I think it's so cool. It's so neat. It's a step forward. And I'm assuming this will be in the Big Lebowski. Wi-Fi connected pinball machines. It's awesome. It's the future is here. This is the first game connected up doing this for pinball right now that I've seen. And I might be wrong. I think there was some game that was supposed to be connected back in the day. It was a Stern game. I don't know if it was Big Buck Hunter Pro or which one it was. Or no, it was the pool game, right? It was it Sharky Shootout or whatever it was. But anyway, this one's actually doing it right now wirelessly. It's the first Wi-Fi enabled game that I've seen out there doing this, sending scores for people to track their scores against each other. It's very cool, very exciting, and I think it's something we should all sort of watch out of the corner of our eye as we see progressions in the technology in pinball machines moving forward. So read about that, check that out. The Bride of Pinbot 2.0 kit is very cool. I think it's sort of a shame that it doesn't sound to me like Dutch Pinball is going to do any more of these 2.0 kits. Sounds like that this was a one and done for them, and that you'll probably see more 2.0 kits. I think some of those have already been announced from other designers coming through licenses with Planetary Pinball and the Williams, Williams proprietary, intellectual property. That's what I'm trying to say here. But very cool that Dutch Pinball was the first one to get this out, and the Bride of 2.0 kits are shipping. They're out there. They're being installed, and now people are connected. I think it's awesome. All right, jumping into my mail bag, which you can email anytime you like at coast2coastpinball@gmail.com. I remember when I started this show, I said, I'll read every email I ever get on the show. I promised everyone that. Because at the time I thought, man, if I can just get like a couple emails a week, that'd be awesome. Then I got a lot of emails, and I said, okay, I can't read every email on the show, but I'll reply to every single email I get. And that's hard to do now. I get a lot of email, and I love it. I read them all. I promise you I read them all. If I haven't replied to an email you wrote me, I'm sorry. Oftentimes I'm reading them at work, and I'm buried, and then I forget to go back. I read them all, and if something sticks out is like perfect for the show, I try and star it in Gmail so I can go back and find it. So here's some that have been starred recently. Hi, Nate. Andy from North Dakota here. Not the only email I got from North Dakota after the last show, I will tell you that. There actually is pinball in North Dakota, but unfortunately I live so far away from it, I only play on the pinball arcade nowadays. I am on a temporary work assignment here and miss very much my Addams Family pinball back at my home in Seattle. Your show helps me get through these long stretches with no real pinball action. Thanks for the hard work. Say hi to Teresa for me. Andy. Hey, Teresa. Yeah. Andy says hi. Andy. From North Dakota.
Oh, wow. Oh, is it a writer?
Yes.
Oh. Tell her?
Him.
Tell him I said hello back.
All right. Andy, Teresa says hi back. All right. Thanks for the email. Yeah, North Dakota. Apparently there is pinball in North Dakota. I found out about a really cool... hold on, let me find it so I can get this right. I don't remember if it was a group or a league. I believe it is in Fargo. Fargo, North Dakota pinball. Let me find this. Facebook is just loading so slow. I sent this on my Facebook feed. If you haven't liked us on Facebook, I would encourage you to do so. A small portion of our listeners like us there. I think we have like 425 likes on Facebook, and that is a small portion of those of you who listen. Fargo Pinball, who actually have more likes than we do, so shows me, right? They have 444 likes. They are very active. They have lots of games to play in Fargo. I actually have a line on talking about Fargo Pinball because it sounds like a pretty neat thing where you can go play these games 24 hours a day in like a lockout situation where I believe you go and use a keypad or some sort of card key type thing in Fargo to go play pinball on location. I don't know exactly how it works. In fact, I would invite he who runs Fargo Pinball to come on Coast to Coast Pinball and tell me about how that's going and prove to me how wrong I am that there is pinball in North Dakota. And I will then ask him, why has he not become the state rep and run his own tournament and go to the nationals? I think that it's wide open for somebody in the great state of North Dakota. There's 3 states I've never been to. I've been to 47 states. There's 3 I haven't been to. One of them is North Dakota. North Dakota, South Dakota, and Alaska. Got to get working on that. All right. So anyway, thank you, Andy, from North Dakota. Nate, I have some suggestions for future guests to the show. I think most of these folks would be great to hear from, and you would surely have nice interviews. Bowen Cairns, one of the great minds in pinball and an all-around nice guy, could be interesting to get his take on the last few years of growth in the hobby. Mark Steinman, head of Papa. Surprised you've not had Mark on yet. He's such a key part of the competitive side of the game. Would be cool to hear you two talk about the silver ball. Molly Atkinson, Pinball Molly, would surely have some great takes and opinions from the female side of the hobby, as well as the operator angle, which is a spot nobody really gets too in-depth on. Zach Sharp, you need to complete the Sharp trifecta. Sorry to try and book your show for you, but I look forward to every episode just like I did Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid. Thanks for all the great shows, Stephen D. Stephen, that's no problem. I will pay you nothing for trying to book my show. I do appreciate it, though. I will tell you, out of the 4 of those people, I have reached out to 3 of the 4 of them, and I believe 2 of those 3 have said they would come on. I just need to get times and dates and get that all figured out. I think one of them did not want to really come on, said that they didn't think that was for them exactly. And the 4th one is Zach Sharp, who doesn't listen to our show and doesn't care. So it's okay. No, I'm just kidding. But no, Mark Steinman and I have actually talked and tried to get him on the show. He gets really busy right around the time of the year I want to get him on, which is like now. Still going to try and do that. Bowen Cairns. I wanted to get Bowen on about a year ago. I was going to try and get Bowen on. I think I emailed back and forth with him or pinside message or something. And he did a really cool interview with the now defunct podcast Pinball Soul. And at the time, I just thought, if he did a great interview, I don't need to go doubling up on that. Like, there you go listen to Bowen on Pinball Soul, which if you haven't heard that interview, it's a very cool talk with Bowen. I would love to have Bowen on, and I should try and line that up. But yeah, so no, there's lots of guests. I actually have guests beyond that lined up. There's some people who maybe you don't think of right off the bat as someone who could do the show or would be on the show, but I think would be really good. So, Stephen, that is no problem at all. I appreciate your enthusiasm, if nothing else. What we got here? Hi, Nate. In your opinion, which will ship first? Predator, Alien, or The Big Lebowski? I'm in on the Predator and The Big Lebowski, possibly Alien. Just curious what you think the timelines will be. M.A. Well, M.A. All right, Predator, Alien Pinball, The Big Lebowski. So Skit B, Highway Pinball, Dutch Pinball. I'm going to go ahead and say the first one to ship a game out of those three will be The Big Lebowski. That is my gut instinct, is people will be playing that first. Second, as much as this pains me in some ways to say, I believe Alien Pinball will beat out Predator Pinball. I think we saw a flipping Whitewood from Highway Pinball. Andrew Highway, there's someone I've talked about coming on the show. We just need to get it done. They posted video, and I linked it on our Facebook page, of the first flipping Whitewood. It has like one ramp, pop bumpers, slingshots, and flippers for the early stages of Alien Pinball, and it's pretty cool. Looks good. I'm excited about Alien Pinball. I think that'll be cool. They don't have their LCD screen in the playfield yet on that game, but it's like kind of step one. So it looks like Highway Pinball is going to sort of take us along for the ride, much like Jersey Jack has done with Wizard of Oz and then The Hobbit, as we see from the very, very beginning days. We saw, back at Expo when Dennis Nordman was still working with Highway Pinball, we saw just little drawings, a shot map, and like some parts that were going to be toys on the game. So we've seen some of that. I think that's exciting to see happening. Predator Pinball. I don't know. I haven't spoken with Kevin in a long time. I will say this. All that silence worries me greatly. All right. Hi, Nate. Very cool episode with Josh Sharp. Learning so much. What I didn't know was how difficult it really is to create a great and fair rankings for IFPA competitors. It's a world I'm just beginning to understand. However, as pinball does seem to have its resurgence, it has a long ways to go. It's still very much outside people's consciousness right now, it seems. I talk about pinball work, and people look at me as if I'm talking about the lunar surface of the moon. When I first told my wife I'm getting back into pinball and playing and so forth, she actually laughed with the mindset that it's a game for kids in junior high school. So yeah, long ways to go. All I can say is keep going with it. Would love to get more into the mindset of these top pinball competitors in the world. How much hours of practice do they put in? Do they own pins, and how many? What do they do, if anything, to prepare for these tournaments? When they get up to play their turn in a tournament, what goes through their mind? Do they have a preset strategy, or do they just play the game? Anyways, thanks, Nate. Daniel from Vegas. P.S. Where's my t-shirt? He did not say that. Shirts, plural. Daniel, your shirts were the very last ones I sent out. I'm sorry. They're on their way, I promise. I don't remember why, but for some reason, yours just were the last ones I got out. Daniel is a new listener to the show. Daniel's emailed me a few times. He's in Vegas. I believe he works in the poker world. He's a dealer. I kind of come from a poker background. Glad to have you listening and writing in the show, Daniel. We'll talk about that with Josh next month. Probably do some shows leading up to Papa, which, boy, that's coming up quick. But I will tell you this. Yes, they absolutely have preset strategy. Absolutely, absolutely. I know that if you go back, and I know Daniel, I believe, told me he's listening to the show starting back from episode 1. So he's eventually going to hear last year's Papa, where I think Steve Bowden and I are outside in front of the Papa headquarters in Scott Township, Pennsylvania. And I believe I ask a very kind of quick question about a certain game, and Steve just runs and goes with it about strategy on the game and kind of leaves me in his dust, which he's done a few times for me, either in person or on the show. The top-level players know all the rules. They know what they're doing. Everything has a purpose, and that's absolutely true. Now, some players definitely play more on the fly, where it's, flipping as the ball comes to the flipper, and then some players are methodical and are trying to stop the ball and be in absolute control at all times. And there are different approaches, but I think they all have a strategy. But yeah, I want to know that too. I want to know how much practice they put in. I know most of them own pins. I know that you see some of the very, very top guys do everything they can to get on the new games as soon as possible. I know you see Keith Elwin putting out videos just almost right away of some of the new games because he's all over it. And that's how you get to be, thought of as maybe the best pinball player in the world. So thank you for the email, Daniel. Your shirts are probably there by the time you hear this show, if not any day now. By the way, on the shirts topic, thank you guys. I sold out all the remaining shirts I had. The 2015 Coast to Coast Pinball t-shirts are designed and ordered, so that'll be coming soon. Let's see, going through. What else do I got here? Got people telling me how bad the weather is. They were mad at me for saying it was cold, chilly day in the 50s here in California. I'm sorry. All right. Yo, Nate. Love the new tournament talk. The best podcast just got better. Below are a couple of topics you could bring up with Josh Sharp. And he gives me a couple great topics. That's from John. Basically, he's saying if there's a local group of players that are highly ranked, could their tourney values just self-feed and grow at a scale of a typical league tourney? I think that's really, really a good call. Could a few affluent travel players build up local advantage? It'd be very hard to compete against. We'll definitely get into all that. The old system of 25 base points for the yearly event gave incentive for players to travel to smaller town venues. Now it makes more sense to just play at the metro locations. We'll have the most players. What can be done to help? Those are all great points, John, and we will definitely get into that as soon as possible. Let's see. I think we have another Andy. Yeah, Andy. He quotes me and says, and I say North Dakota because there's no pinball in North Dakota. Nate Shivers, Coast2Coast Pinball. And he writes in big bold letters, false, Andy. P.S., sorry I couldn't help myself. P.P.S., no, we don't actually have tundra or caribou in North Dakota, but it makes it sound a lot more hardcore. Funny anecdote, I work for a company that has multiple campuses across multiple states, and I happen to be at the Fargo, North Dakota campus. Recently, a new hire started at our Bellevue, Washington campus, and as tradition, sent out a Hello World email introducing herself to the team. She mentioned she was originally from Siberia, which, funny enough, was, in her words, almost exactly like Fargo, North Dakota. Seriously, I need to move. Andy, awesome. Thank you for listening. Was both emails that I read from North Dakota from Andy? Is there only people named Andy in North Dakota? Is that possible? I had 2 emails from 2 guys named Andy in North Dakota. I think Teresa's laughing at me right now. All right. Let's see. Just heard your latest show. I was driving home. This is right after I heard the weather forecast for here tonight. 15 degrees below zero with a negative 35-degree windshield. And you said cold at 56 degrees in California. Yeah, I know. I'm not very nice. I was wondering who would catch that. All right. Love the journo side of things you bring to pins, mate. The podcast makes for awesome at-work listening. Since you like to sniff the white noise on Pinside, has the homebrew/DIY pinball threads piqued your interest? With time being important, didn't know if you've delved much into the very niche boutique side of even more boutique threads. Nothing like a subset of a subset to remain hidden. What would have been once an impossible dream is so very obtainable these days. We have some great threads on Pinside, a collective wiki of information that's growing. New electronics boards, 3D printers, the sky is the limit. We as hobbyists have a long way to go, but we're getting there. It's an exciting time to be in pinball. Signed, Stu. Stu, thank you. It's hard for me sometimes to just go through the internet and get into the really boutique side of stuff. You know, I played the Jules Verne game at Arcade Expo, which is very niche and very homebrew. I played the Buffy the Vampire Slayer game at Expo, and there's a bunch of others. And in person, they're a lot of fun. I guess I'm not super excited about specific things that can't be recreated for everyone to enjoy. So when they're at the shows, it's kind of cool because lots of people get to get on the games and play. But I can't get too excited, just like you said, kind of time and space for these sort of things. I can't get too into a game that just one guy is slaving away on that might be themed after like his family or something, just because that is really down the rabbit hole. But you're right. The bigger story is the new electronics boards, whether it's P3, working out with their boards, whether it's fast pinball, whether it's the Heck system, 3D printers. 3D printers are going to change boutique pinball. They already have with America's Most Haunted. That's a big deal. That's changing a lot of industries. The sky is the limit. I think a lot of people who love pinball, I think, dream of designing and building their own pinball game. Many of them quickly find out how incredibly difficult it is to do. But we're seeing this push forward, with Stern moving from the SAM system to the Spike system, and these small little boards running the whole game. And we're already seeing like modular board sets with Jersey Jack. The way the games are being built, there's less wire in them. There's less going on. It's more computer based and Linux based. And if you know what you're doing, I think it's in some regards, easier to pull off building a game. Now, still building 100 or 1,000 games is incredibly difficult. Building a game has never been more attainable than it is right now. And that's really cool because some portion of those will succeed. We saw with Riot Pinball and Wrath of Olympus, one of the very best homebrew single build games that we've ever seen came out of, Scott Gullick's mind. And they tried very hard to get that thing built, and they didn't get the pre-orders they needed to build it with Spooky Pinball, and I think they're still working and trying. It's just a weird time right now because we had this expansion in pinball with people throwing money around, and we have money tied up currently. I mean, there's still a lot of money out on Medieval Madness remakes, and those are on the line. That's happening. There's money tied up in The Hobbit. There's money tied up with Skit B. I mean, there's a lot of money out right now that people probably aren't willing to spend more money on until they get their game. So I think it'll be interesting, say, a year and a half or 2 years from now, where we are with new things popping up. I've had emails from other companies who sent me like sketches or photos of like, check out my new game concept. I'm going to build this game. Can I come on your show and talk about it? And I've had to real politely say to a few people, hey man, I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and please keep me informed the whole way. But I don't think I want to dedicate time on this little experiment show of mine to something that very likely may never come to, and I don't want to say this to someone, but more than likely most of these games don't get built. We saw things like the Gremlins pinball with the Vonnie D fiasco last year. I think a lot of us saw that wasn't going to happen. But people want in. They want to try and find money in this thing. And that's one side of it. And some people just want to build a game. And if they make money off of it, cool. And some small percentage are going to build something special that's going to capture imaginations of players and hobbyists and collectors. And those are going to be the fun ones to watch and see actually come to fruition. And some of those limited games will become big-time collector's items and be at shows for the next few decades. We're in the early days of this, forget pinball resurgence, but this boutique movement, this homebrew DIY thing. There's so many games out there being developed and being built. There's games that you don't even know about yet. There's people working on original themes, licensed themes you haven't heard of yet, because some of them are going to keep it quiet, and we're going to have surprises. There will be, in the next, I'll say 18 months, just out of nowhere, a complete game ready to go. I know that's going to happen, and it'll be very interesting and very awesome to see. We kind of saw it with Dutch Pinball. I mean, there was some lead up to the Big Lebowski, but I don't think anybody expected that game to be where it was when people first got their hands on it. So that's going to continue. It's just like any new business, though. The failure rate is awfully high. So I try and look at things from a top-down perspective. The modding community is still, I think, in its early days. There's so many cool mods going on, and there's all sorts of angles to that. I really respect Randy and what he does at Color DMD, and I love his product. And then you see Smart DMD pop up and sort of doing a similar type mod, albeit from a different angle and a different take. So there's like competition brewing within the mods. It's amazing. And you see toppers and all these different things, and the LEDs. There's all these LED companies. There's so much just sort of happening. Some of it'll go away, and it's kind of, honestly, it's like the podcasts. We've lost a few podcasts over the years. We've had people who were doing pinball podcasts that, for whatever reason, lost interest. Their time shifted in their life, where they couldn't dedicate that much, and we saw some folks go away, and that's just going to happen. That's natural, and it's fun to watch. It's interesting to see. I had an email, and I'm sorry I can't find your email. It's buried in my inbox somewhere. Somebody asked me recently why I don't give more coverage to Stern, which I thought was really a funny question, because I think I talk about Stern games all the time, and certainly when they release a new game, I go out of my way to talk about it and review it and give my comments and best take on it, and I try and be really fair with them, because I respect the heck out of what Stern has done for this industry. But I guess what they were sort of saying is, why haven't you had any of the folks from Stern on? And I have this weird thing with Stern Pinball, because they're the big guys. They're the man. They're the corporation. And I heard really early on, and I'm talking early on in Coast to Coast Pinball, that somebody at Stern didn't like me. I heard that they specifically thought I was too negative on Stern, which I don't think I'm too negative on Stern. I think I'm really fair. If I like it, I say I like it. If I don't like it, I say I don't like it. It's just my opinion, man. And I got sort of paranoid, though, when I heard that somebody at the company didn't like me. And I spoke with a few people from Stern Pinball, and I didn't get that vibe at all. They were very friendly to me, both designers and other people. So maybe that's not there, but I guess in some ways, I don't know if Stern needs it. I think everybody who's listening to this show probably knows what Stern's doing. I would love to have John Trudeau, Steve Ritchie, George Gomez come on to the game. I would come on to the game, come on to the show, and talk about their games as they come out. I mean, I would love to have Lyman Sheets come on. They're busy, they're working, and I think sometimes, I know from my point of view where I work, we're the number one company in our industry. Taylor Guitars is the number one seller of acoustic guitars in the world by dollars, and I sometimes think that we sort of let the product speak for itself. And I think Stern does that a little bit. It kind of like, man, here's our game, and it's ready to ship next week. Buy it. That's powerful. And I think that's awesome. So I guess that's why I don't go out of my way, like running for Stern, trying to chase them down to come on the show. But I'll try more. I'll reach out for sure. But I hope that I cover it from all angles. And Stern's definitely a big, important part of the industry, obviously. All right. I gotta go. I have plans with the beautiful Teresa tonight. We gotta get out of here. I'm gonna edit the show later tonight, so you'll be hearing it on Sunday. Thanks for listening. You can email me anytime you like, coastcoastpinball@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening. Play some pinball. Talk to you guys soon.